Okay, folks, I know that we will continue to get some attendees who are trickling in, but for those of you who are here, we will get this started now in the interest of time. Today we have our fourth in a series of career interest panels sponsored by the Internship and Shadowing Group. Thank you very much to Vanessa Nurbin and Leah Wawaszewski down in Alumni Development Office, who have helped us put, who have roped in all of the speakers for these. And thank you very, very much to our speakers today for joining us to tell you a little bit about their background and how they got involved in their careers. Today, we are very pleased to welcome Michael Shepard, who is Managing Partner and Founder of Ironwood Drive Financial Group. We also have with us Tom Ulrichsen, who works with WAD Capital Partners, where he's a business development associate. And also Scott Lurie, who is the president of F Street Group, an investment company that is located downtown. And so all of our speakers today will tell you a little bit about their backgrounds, how they got to where they are today, what they do on a day-to-day basis, and where they think their industry is going. And so right now, I'm going to turn it over to Michael from Ironwood Drive, who will tell us a little bit about his educational background. And tell us, Michael, how did you get to where you are now?
Well, I'll tell the full story and also the business name, but I will say in high school, you can find your passion in many different ways. I actually went to school for electrical engineering. I didn't go for finance, but in my electrical engineering curriculum, there were several internships that were available. And when I did my engineering internship, I wanted to be more on the business ownership side as opposed to the coding side, even though I knew that piece of it. And so I did an engineering internship and I did a sales internship. The sales internship was with Cutco Knives. And some of you I know are doing that now. And what I enjoyed about Cutco Knives was the fact that you got to interact with people. There was a full sales process and that my income was reflected on the way that I worked. Some of you I've had the opportunity to coach, and I tend to love sports because it's performance-based. And a lot of finance is performance-based, meaning that there is irrefutable value that you can have in our industry. If you make plays, then you can become a starter. If you continue to make plays, then you can continue to progress in your career. And so I learned through an internship in college that I wanted to get into finance. And then the other piece of it is a little bit more close to heart. Some of you may know, I lost my biological mother 11 days after I was born. I lost my adopted mother when I was 11. And from 12 on, I was raised by my sister. Now, at the time of my life when I lost my second mom, it was a place where I had to really focus on the positive, and I lost my comfort zone. And so the street that I lived on after my second mom passed away was Ironwood Drive in California City, California. And so the name of the company comes from a time in my life when I had to focus on the positive, get work done, and really bet on myself. And so I heard one question before we go into the others of, some of you really want the corner office, and I would challenge you to think bigger. Why not just have the office? Why not build a company yourself and have the whole office? And you can put your corner office in your business. And I think some of the people that you will hear speak to you today will echo those comments because entrepreneurship is a good thing. So as far as how I got here in training, the training was more on the job. Finance is something where training can come in many different ways, and our industry continues to change year in and year out. And so you have to be committed to being a lifelong learner. After college, I got my Certified Financial Planners designation. I recently got accepted into the NFLPA's Financial Advisor Program. I got my welcome packet today and my pass to the Senior Bowl, Super Bowl, Pro Bowl, and Combine. So that's something that you can advance to. I went to Cannon Trust School down in Atlanta to learn about generational wealth. I am currently studying for my Certified Plan Fiduciary designation because we do retirement plans for businesses. So the beauty of this industry is there's so many different ways that you can go as long as you're willing to learn and do good work.
Thank you. Tom, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get to where you are?
Of course. Thank you, Susan, and thanks, Michael. It's great to hear your background. I graduated, starting from the top, I graduated from USM 10 years ago, so in 2011, and went to school in Madison, the University of Wisconsin. And I knew I wanted to get into business school. They have great career advising, good reputation. I knew it had a broad and diverse set of potential career options, but I was originally undecided on what my major should be. And I ultimately landed on finance because I was interested in financial markets. I knew there was a diverse set of potential career options. And frankly, I just, I liked what I knew about it enough in that, I thought that there was certainly a career in there that would scratch my intellectual curiosity as well as some of like my outgoing and customer relationship desires that I was looking for in a career. So over the course of college, I had two internships. There's a lot of ways you can go within finance. One of them was at Ziegler in wealth management, and the other was at Baird in sales and trading. Internships are great because they can, allow you to test out different potential career options and just like dip your toes in the water and see if it's something that's interesting to you. I ended up really liking the wealth management internship. I like the sales and customer relationship aspects of the business. Similarly to Michael, I like kind of like the eat what you kill model, as they say, and that, the harder you work, the better you do, the more compensation you can achieve, and, the better, ultimately the better business you can create for yourself. So I was able to get into a wealth management and financial planning certification program at Madison, which was really helpful, allowed me to do further career advising. And I started my career at JP Morgan, quickly earned my CFP designation or certification. As you'll probably hear, like certifications and continuing education is a pretty important component and something that is always available to you in the financial and professional world. Stayed at JP Morgan for a couple of years, and it was great because there's a lot of internal mobility that's allowed at some of these bigger banks. So if you aren't completely sure what you want to do, there are a lot of what's called analyst programs at large banks and financial institutions in which, it's like a continuation of your college education. It's really focused on development, on finding out the best spot for you, and they want to retain great talent. So I had plenty of friends move around internally to operations, corporate finance, real estate, investment banking. I was in the private bank at JP Morgan. After about 3 years, I found out it's something that wasn't really for me in terms of where I wanted to take my career. So I joined a private equity firm here in Chicago called Wad Capital Partners. And it just kind of happened fortuitously, but I was able to find the opportunity through networking, essentially just finding folks on LinkedIn and, specializing in an area of the financial markets that I was interested in, particularly private equity, and reached out, had quick, informational phone calls, and was able to land myself a job. So that was a great experience, and I've been with WAD for about 3 years now, and really enjoy it. So hopefully that set the stage and answered the question, but that's kind of the background with how I got to where I am.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. All right, Scott, tell us about your background and how you got to where you are today.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Tom and Shep, it's great to be with you. Susan, thanks for inviting me to participate in your series. I think this is a great benefit to many of your students, and certainly happy to be here. I started out as a very young child growing up in a family business, always understanding the value of the dollar and how hard I saw my parents working together and their struggles. And so I knew what I wanted to do was focus on being successful in life. And I defined that pretty significantly as obviously focus on family, but also being successful in my business. And so in 2003, I started in my investment career, and we run our own business. So F Street, Michael, you had a analogy to where you grew up when you were 11 after the tragic passing of your second mother was on Ironwood, and I went to school in Washington, D.C., and lived on F Street, and that's how F Street was generated as the name of our company. So certainly the motivation is there to pay a little bit of tribute back to Washington, D.C. and everything that we've done. Our focus is, where I come from is really focused on generating returns and alternative investing. The market is an incredibly competitive market today, and it's getting more competitive by the minute. And so what we have selected as an investment company is really focusing on alternative investments where we can be very successful. And so we pick real estate markets. So we're a real estate development firm focusing in Wisconsin. We do large scale developments for municipalities as well as our own developments that no one ever hears of. And our focus is really generating above market returns for our investors. And the investment community, the one that we continue to grow and take care of every day is really where our focus is. So we got started with flipping houses back in 2003, and that's turned into a very large portfolio of 1,500 multifamily apartments. We have another $300 million of development that we're building today. And my motivation, obviously being part of the USM community and having my favorite son listen to this, is to obviously remember, how important being successful is and how difficult it is to be successful. And so I think it's very important for every student to understand that we can never take success as a given or a grant. And we have to really be focused on earning success, and everyone defines success in their own way. But in the business community, our focus is really to generate above market returns for our investors. And so, with that said, we continue to develop and do really cool stuff. It's very important that you like what you do. Otherwise, sustainability in the career doesn't happen. And so I encourage everyone to really pick a passion and pick a career to which they like. And then I think your success will follow. And so I really was passionate about real estate and generating wealth. And so that was the career path I chose, and that's where I am today. So thanks for having me again. I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate the community you continue to grow with.
Well, thank you very much. So all of you, there's definitely a theme of connecting with clients and sales and really having cultivating those personal relationships. So those people skills are certainly an essential skill to your field. What are some of the other personal skills? And I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about that, or a minute to think about that. Students who are watching, if you have particular questions that you would like to pose, please use the Q&A feature, which is down at the bottom of your screen, and post your questions there if you have any. And then I will go back to my opening volley. What are some of the other essential skills to succeed in your field? And Michael, I'll start with you again, if that's okay. Oh, you're on mute.
I think number one is doing what you say you will do. I mean, it's kind of a simple thing, but in business, there are people who make false promises, and your relationships will deepen, and your production will be much better if you tell people you're going to do something and you actually do it. And that could be as simple as returning an email, returning a phone call, or saying that you'll be at a meeting and being there, because that then goes on to, like Scott said, saying I'm going to deliver on this in alternative investments, beating the return, delivering on that, delivering a development that is unique. For us, we focus on guidance, and that guidance is based off on a lot of trust. And so every interaction is an opportunity to deepen that trust by doing what you say you would do. And so just to keep it simple, it's that. So I'll give one, and then I guess everybody else will get one.
All right, Tom, how about you?
I would definitely echo what Michael said, in that doing what you say you do and being responsive is certainly one that I've seen quite a bit. I would say that for me, liking what you do is key. And that's why, I mean, early on in your career, it's important to make sure that you are in a career and a job that you can see yourself doing, for a long time, or at least the career track lines up with what you enjoy and what you want out of a career. Because if not, the days are going to feel really long, and hard work and long hours are easy if you like what you do and you see the impact and you get enjoyment out of it. And it's not always fun, but it allows you it's a marathon really, and it allows you to kind of be consistent and stick with it even during the hard times. If you like it and you enjoy it, then the rest kind of falls into place.
Thank you. Scott, what's your advice?
We have a saying, and maybe it's not a saying, but a culture at F Street, where everything must operate with tremendous urgency, regardless of the task, from the communicating to the responsiveness of how we handle applications for our lending business, or how we deal with a tenant who's looking for a new home to live in, or how we communicate with our investors. Everything must be done with tremendous urgency. And so, urgency is a unique characteristic or descriptor of what is urgent and how do you react. And so we put a blanket over everything we do is everything's urgent. Everything is required to be done with tremendous urgency. And I would encourage every student, every person to really evaluate what urgency is, because us as a collective body of Americans are complacent as just a general characteristic, right? Well, I can do it tomorrow, so why would I do it today? And as a winner, as someone who's going to win, if someone's doing it tomorrow and you do it today, you could earn the sale, you could earn the new client, you could earn the relationship, you could win at whatever you're after, before the other people even wake up the next morning. And so I would just really want to hold everyone to a higher level of urgency. And I think if you think about how you can operate in your own urgent world, I think you will be tremendously successful. And so urgency, and I would encourage everyone to consider everything urgent, whether it's your schoolwork, or whether it's being responsive to your parents today, or whether it is your next job interview. Urgency is tremendous. And I hope everyone takes that and acts urgently on that matter.
I would just like to echo on one thing that you said, and you said it in so many words, is finance is a competitive business. And if you don't go after it, somebody's going to get it before you. And so I just love that. And I would add, wake up early. So, I'm up at 4:50 every morning. Why? Because I want to be up 10 minutes before whoever wakes up at 5. So, it's part of it is you've got to realize that in this industry, if you go hard, you will be rewarded.
All right, thank you. There's one question that came in. Where were most of your connections in the business field made? Were they in college, first job, etc.? Where did those connections get made? And then I'd add to that, how do you continue to cultivate your networks?
I can kick. You can go ahead. All right. I would say all the above, really. And the key is I think it's important to be somewhat outgoing in your career if you're hungry for success. When you do start a new job, make sure you introduce yourself to everybody. Try to cultivate relationships and stick with those people. When I started at JP Morgan, the start of my career, we were in an analyst class, about 200 folks, and I didn't get to know everyone really well, but I made those connections, and a lot of them well enough such that I know what they're up to. I can stay in touch with them. And then, throughout my career, I've both in time in college, I was involved in a number of organizations. I was involved in a fraternity. I had several jobs on campus. And then coming out of school now, I'm involved with the Alumni Association, both with USM and with the University of Wisconsin. And just kind of, spending your time doing different activities, things you're interested in, is going to open the world up a lot to people that you're just connected with. And the networking thing, it sounds tedious and and hard, but it's just like anything else, it's just doing what you enjoy, and you end up making friends along the way. And it's not really work. It's more just like your social life, and it's ingrained in how you operate and how you work too. So.
All right, Scott or Michael, how do you grow? How did you start, and how do you grow your networks?
Yeah, I mean, I would, I tell my children this every day, and I say this often to them: you never know. And the reality is, you never know who you're talking to or who you're going to talk to. And so I've always preached to my children, and maybe it's more than a preach at this level, and Hayden probably can answer the statement just by listening, but be friends with everyone. And that's our slogan in our little world, is you have to be friends with everybody, because you never know. I've got friends that are 95 years old, and I have friends that are 10. And I value everyone's relationships, because people that were my teachers or that were my superiors are now my clients or investors, and those people's parents are my investors. And so, Tom mentioned it's part of your lifestyle. Networking is a phenomenal lifestyle, but it takes consistent dedication, and you never know. And so you always have to be respectful to everybody you talk to, as well as focused on the relationship. And the relationship should be just a friendship at first. And that could turn into a business relationship or a networking relationship, where John introduced me to Peter, who Peter just invested $1 million with us. And Peter would only invest $1 million with us because John's recommendation is that Scott's an honorable person. And so, you never know. And it's very important that we are friends with everyone, because everyone makes the world go round, but it also helps in the investment community. So those are my thoughts.
I would echo both of those. That's amazing advice that I hope all of you are writing down. I would add 3 things. 1, have mentors. There are people who have gone through things, who have wisdom that they can give to you, that hopefully you can learn earlier, so that you can know some of the mistakes that were made and know some of the successes that they had, because everybody's got those things where they say, I wish I would have done this. And when you hear that, try and do it. The second thing, and the next 2 I've heard from mentors, right? And the first is live, work, and play where your clients are. Do what you're passionate about. Look around. Those people typically have the same passions as you do. It's likely that they should be a part of your network. And then the last thing, which I think is kind of echoes with both Tom and Scott have said, is you will be compensated based off of how hard you work until about 30 to 35. After 30 and 35, you'll be compensated based on who you know, not how hard you work. I'll say it again. Until 30 to 35, you'll be compensated with how hard you work. And after 30 to 35, you'll be compensated based off of who you know, because those positions at that level are typically filled before they're open, and it's typically a relationship. And you can't start your network when you're 30 and 35. The reason that it's that age is because that's when your relationships are now 10-year relationships. And they can say, I've known Scott 10 years. You can trust him. Whatever he's talking about, do it. And it takes a while to get that. But if you start early, then you will definitely benefit from it.
Right. This is great advice that applies to more than one career. Definitely. All right. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the certification process. Obviously, staying up on certifications is important. Could you talk a little bit about the independent learning process that is necessary? How much time are you devoting to this? How frequent is this? Is there a cutoff to that? Anything that you would like to add about how learning continues outside of college?
Sure, I'll touch on it. So I have, in our industry, you have to have certain licenses to sell certain securities, and then you get certain certifications to set yourself apart from the field. So I have Series 7, 66, CFP 6, 63, Life Accident and Health, 24, 53. I've got my CFP. I'm working on which is Certified Financial Planner. I'm working on Certified Plan Fiduciary, and then Certified Exit Planning for people who are selling their business and are working on an exit plan from that business. So I'll liken it to sports. Tom Brady is a student of the game, and he is so far a student of the game that he became the greatest ever. And most people who are really good at their profession are students of the game, and that never stops. And so, if you want to be great, you've got to continue your education at all times.
Similarly to Michael, when I came out of school, I was, I had to get the Series 7 and the Series 63 just to stay in my job. So you get two shots at it at JP Morgan, and every firm's different, but generally in analyst programs, you need those to be on the job. But when it comes to more of like the certifications rather than the licenses, which are like the Series 7, as Michael said, it's really just to differentiate yourself. It's to learn more, and it's to make yourself better in your career and more differentiated and the more favorable professional. And so I got my CFP, which was a lot of studying. It's a 7-hour exam, just because I knew that if I was going to stay in that career, I wanted to have that advantage over other people in it, and I wanted to make sure that I was continuously learning and getting better at my field. Now, after I made the transition to where I am now in private equity, there's not really certifications as much. So a couple of my licenses have expired, but there's always like content and opinion leaders and individuals that I follow and I try to learn from consistently. So like, it'll be 7 or 8 p.m. and I'll be watching videos on just, people in my career talking about how they excel at what they do. And that has come from like an internal desire to be better. And it's not like I'm getting a license or a certification for that, but it's just knowing that, the actual education is the most important part. And once you kind of have the desire to learn and actually grow through that lens, there's just endless content to consume and ways to get better through that way.
Got anything to add?
Yeah, maybe I'll keep it brief. And maybe Susan, you'll probably appreciate this comment more than most, although unless you're a parent, you'll probably appreciate it. Tom mentioned the content that's out there and the amount of free content. So in my world, we're entrepreneurs. We don't have series anything. We have success, right? And we're focused on that. The amount of content that's available, whether it's through podcasting, YouTube, TED Talks, you name it. I would only encourage all of the youth. My kids seem to spend a plethora of time on these novelty apps such as Snapchat and TikTok that allow them to not get smarter as a result of their time, yet it's part of their peer bodies that everybody's doing it. And I understand it and do appreciate it, by the way. But I would equally challenge everybody to take equal amount of time that they're spending to find their content provider, whether it's through a podcast or a YouTube channel or or an audio book or a book, whatever it might be, and spend some time educating yourself through those channels, because there's so much free or nominal cost content that betters you every day. And if you spend your time doing that, you will be better, and you will be ahead of the next person who just sent 8 more Snapchats and you just listened to Zig Ziglar's talk on salesmanship. And so that's my only statement, is that we have to focus on the amount of free content that is in our world is so massive and so valuable, and I hope everybody gets to take advantage of it.
Great words.
Thank you. My final question for you is, how do you see your industry changing in the next 5 to 10 years? And is there any advice you'd pass on to students about that? And changing not just in terms of what it focuses on, but also who it focuses on and who it welcomes. So think broadly in response to that question.
Well, one thing for our industry is it has probably the biggest opportunity for growth from a diversity standpoint. And so it is an industry that is doing a better job of welcoming smart in any form, gender, preference, or person of color. So I know the CFP came out with a study in December of 2018 that of the 83,000 CFPs there are in the world, only 3,500 were Black and Latino, and only 1,200 were Black. So I know that is changing. There's a big focus of welcoming a broader community to the industry. There's a lot of speculation of where our industry could go, where it's moving algorithmic and that there may be less of a people component. I tend to believe that we by nature need some form of accountability partner outside of an algorithm. And so you can't replace Scott. His brain is unique to him. His advice is unique to him, and the way that he looks at the market is unique to him. Same with Tom and myself. And so I think that despite the tools that are more readily available for people to, we'll say, try to replace the human contact, I think that there will always be a need for some form of human interaction.
Just the names of your firms demonstrate the necessity of the human story within it.
Mhm.
Tom or Scott, anything you'd like to add?
I would just say from just as a closing comment, maybe related to your question, is I think competition is going to only continue to increase with the nature of the world, how fast the world is moving, how swiftly the world is passing everybody by. I think competition is going to continue to get harder, stronger, and more competitive. And so to the student body that has the ability and the fortune to be at such a prestigious university, to be able to have an opportunity that, as good as we think we might have it, there's 50 better, higher, smarter, greater educational universities somewhere else in this world that are trying to beat us. And so I would say the competition is so strong, and I will only continue to get stronger. And it's internal at that point, right? It becomes your own motivation to be better, stronger, smarter, and win. And Michael has alluded to the personal contact. We're not going anywhere. Us people are not going to turn into skeletons and behind computers. The personal relationship that is required, the amount of times I talk to investors or potential opportunities is in a day is so important, and that's my priority. And so managing priority and focusing on that, everybody's out there to win for themselves, and it's a tough game. So keep hustling.
And one thing I agree with both Scott and Michael. One thing I'll add is when I started in my industry, and up to about a few years ago, what I was told and what I heard was that if you want to get to kind of a top tier private equity firm out of like an investment bank, you essentially have to attend a 2-year MBA program, and it has to be one of the top 5 MBA programs. And that's a lot of like what you have heard and what's been the story traditionally. Over the past few years, there has been a huge shift away from that, I would say, and what I have seen. And it's just my experience. And I think it's a reflection of a greater openness in the financial world and also greater competition. It's, we're more so than an MBA. People are looking for kind of just the hungrier individuals, the more competitive individuals, people with kind of a diverse way of thinking about things, people who are creative and hungry. Whereas, they don't really need the 3 letters next to their name in the same way. While that does often help, I think there's a shift to that yields itself to greater opportunity for everyone if you have the desire to go out and get it.
So Moxie is definitely the word of the day. So, all right. So Michael Shepard, Scott Lurie, and Tom Ulrichsen, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day and your busy hustle to help our students better understand how they can join your ranks and hopefully join your networks. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate it, and I wish you all a lovely afternoon.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Thank
It's
you.
great to be with each of you, Michael and Tom. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.